So in today's world of reality TV shows, I've got one that I want to pitch. So here's how it goes. We take a whole bunch of rich white dudes and we drop them off in a swamp. And we tell them that they've got to survive. I mean, that's nothing new. But they've also got to turn a profit. We'll call it Jamestown. What do you mean they've already done that? England did it? Jamestown? Man! Welcome to Learning with Sprayberry, where we make social studies fun, easy, and hopefully educational. If you love learning about social studies, American history, or really just enjoy random facts, then click that subscribe button and stay up to date. Make sure you also smash the bell to catch the notifications. Today, we're going to be digging into Jamestown, the first permanent colony in America. And we're going to take it and break it into three parts. Let's dive in first into background. After seeing other European countries strike it rich in the New World, England decides it's got to get in the game. Now initially the king gives out a land grant to a person and sends them off to launch a colony. That colony starts in North Carolina. It's called Roanoke, and it disappears never to be seen again. Oh, that's not... okay. More about that in an upcoming video. But England was not deterred. The next time, the king chose to give out permission to joint stock companies. Now, joint stock companies have investors put money in to pay for the initial cost of the colony, hoping that profits will eventually come back to them. This took the cost off England and placed it on the companies. And the Virginia Company of London got permission to launch another colony. In 1606, the Susan Constant, the Discovery, and the Godspeed launched for the New World. After a quick stop in the Spanish colony of Puerto Rico, and 4 months later, they finally land in what's going to become Chesapeake Bay. The 104 colonists land and pick an area that makes sense. It made sense at first, at least. It was easily defended, and most importantly, unoccupied. Makes it easy to settle. There are three reasons, though, that it was uninhabited. 1, the water is brackish, and therefore totally undrinkable. 2, the land is swampy and covered in mosquitoes. And 3, the land doesn't grow anything because it's pretty bad soil. It didn't help that the colony landed in the season too late to actually plant and grow anything. Throw all that together with the fact that the people who came over were hoity-toity upper-class people who just wanted to find riches without, really having to work, and you have a real disaster on your hands. When the Europeans met the natives, who were members of the Iroquois Confederacy, things went pretty well at first. The natives traded and helped support the colonists when they first landed. Now, this doesn't last long because a bunch of rich dudes who don't want to work are definitely going to take advantage out of anybody who wants to help them. Within 2 years, 2/3 of the colony had died out. Luckily, in 1608, a resupply ship brought more supplies and more colonists that were hungry. Now, this new group of people were just as ready to get rich and avoid work as everybody else. Nobody planned this. The plan was to find gold and precious stones to send back to England to make the investors rich. This doesn't match with farming. It's not like you can dig for gold and plant at the same time. The colonists eventually started expanding into native territory and kept taking supplies from the natives. Conflict pops up, and some colonists are killed. John Smith. Yeah, the blonde-haired heartthrob from all the Disney movies? Well, eventually, he's wandering around in December of 1607. And he gets captured by Powhatan natives. Smith hadn't really been making friends because he'd been securing supplies from the natives with force. He was on his way to meet his maker when Pocahontas, daughter of Chief Powhatan, pushed for Smith's release. And Smith claims that she threw herself over his body to stop it. Historians question this because the first time he mentions Pocahontas is 10 years after these events supposedly happens. Plus, he'd been saved by a young girl when he was captured in Hungary. Really weird that he's been captured so many times and saved by so many young girls. I'm just saying.
What? You know me!
Smith eventually takes control of the colonies and slaps some work ethic into the colonists. Reportedly, he told the failing and flailing colonists, "He that will not work shall not eat." Later, Smith has to return to England after a gunpowder explosion burns him. In 1609, things get worse. The starving time, from 1609 until 10, results in only 60 survivors out of the original 214 settlers. People were so desperate for food they ate snakes and boiled shoe leather, and new evidence shows that some resorted to cannibalism. By 1613, the owners of the Virginia Company were pretty stressed out about the money they'd lost. Jamestown had barely survived but made little money. John Rolfe, one of the few survivors, had a plan to start cranking out the profits. He smuggled out tobacco seeds from Spanish colonies. These seeds took off well in the New World, and Rolfe pulled in the first profits after 7 years. Tobacco made him and the colony rich. Rolfe eventually marries Pocahontas. Yeah, Disney lied to you. And this marriage smoothed out a lot of the rough feelings between the colonists and the natives. Rolfe and Pocahontas travel off to England so he can show her the world, where she gets sick and dies. All right, so what? We got a colony up and running, turning a profit. But what does this matter for us? Because Jamestown is now finally cranking out a profit, people want to start coming over here. You got to understand that at the time it sucked to live in England. Those cities were suffering from overcrowding and disease and random fires that would wipe out whole towns. So the opportunity to make money in a wide open area sounds amazing. Problem is, moving to the colony is stupid expensive. The Virginia colony comes up with a plan where instead of paying cash for your voyage, you pay in labor. As an indentured servant, you would come over here and spend 4 to 7 years working off your payment for the package. Indentured servitude was not slavery. It was entered into by choice, and you were treated more like a waitress with an angry table as opposed to slavery, which meant that you were treated as property. Speaking of slavery, in 1619, 20 African Americans were captured off a ship heading to Spanish Mexico, and they were brought to the colony. Their purpose was to help raise the profitability of tobacco as a cash crop, because slave labor is free. All these new immigrants began changing the landscape of the area. Land was plowed for farming and for cash crops, and as the colony expanded, it began crossing out the originally uninhabited area into land settled by natives. This conflict erupted into a full-on war between the Powhatan Confederacy and settlers. In 1622, the natives tried to wipe the colony out, resulting in 300 dead colonists. By 1624, King James pulled the Virginia Company's charter and took over, putting it back under the control of the king. As a result of Jamestown's colonization, England got a new hunger for settling. Jamestown made money and established outposts for English expansion. The country could create a revenue stream, drive into new and undiscovered raw materials, while helping out with overcrowding in England. Jumping on over to question of the day. If you were going to plan a colony, what would you do differently? I mean, these guys clearly didn't have any idea what they were doing. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, I'm looking for suggestions for video topics. If you've got an idea, send me a comment and I'll throw it on my list of stuff to cover. In true Sprayberry tradition, we're going to hit up Subscriber of the Week. This week, let's shout out Mystic Fire Angel. I truly appreciate your subscription. If you want to do some more learning or get featured as the Subscriber of the Week, or you simply have pity on a hardworking teacher, feel free to click that subscribe button. Until next time, this has been Learning with Sprayberry, where we attempt our best to make social studies fun, easy, and educational. Thanks.